Prolific rugby league writer Roger Waite, welcome to More Than a Game.
Thank you.
Alright, now for those that don't know you, you're the author of 6 of the most interesting and informative books on rugby league, in particular Brisbane and Queensland Rugby League. So Roger, what inspired you to become a rugby league historian and writer?
It's just probably more organic sort of process than anything else. I certainly have a love of history, and one thing that's sort of become a bit of a habit of mine is I might be looking for something myself, and if I can't find it and I've got the tools to create it, I then start creating it myself. So that's how some of these digital scrapbooks, as I refer to them, sort of came about. Yeah,
sensational, mate. Well, I can relate to that because, I'll be upfront and honest, I've loved, researching via your, as you say, digital scrapbooks, but, mate, they're sensational. To me, they're real time capsules that, are to be revered. So, mate, congratulations on what you created. They're sensational. Alright, so one of the most comprehensive books you've written is your A History of Brisbane Rugby League, 1909 to 2017. So where do you acquire your amazing passion for the actual game of rugby league? Where did that start? Did it start as a child? Was there anyone in particular that really nurtured that passion for rugby league?
I think probably my uncle was sort of one who sort of got me interested in sport, cricket and rugby league and so forth. And so, and he took me to my first sort of origin, first interstate game, I really should say, because that was before the origin started as well. Came back that far, first couple of games there, and went to see. From there, I sort of started going to origin games and the odd BRL games, sort of growing up as a teenager. So even though I didn't go to too many BRL games, certainly once the Broncos came in, I love the Broncos, but it was like a disturbance in the force. So
I hear you.
With what happened with the BRL, it's like it was such a tragic way to see how it lost so much interest from the general public, and because of that, I've sort of wanted to try and capture some of that in at least in written form.
Oh, mate, you've 100% succeeded in that, and I completely relate to what you're saying because being a child who grew up watching, going along with Dad, dragged me along to so many different BRL games. Lang Park, we'd frequent Davies Park, we went to Cougarai Oval, we'd often, being an Ipswich boy, we'd always be at the North Ipswich Reserve from 86 onwards. That was the competition. We weren't that interested in the Sydney competition, to be honest with you. Exactly. We might watch a couple of semis and the grand final day, and that was about all she wrote. But and then obviously a lot of those heroes of the Brisbane Rugby League then became part of the Broncos. So immediately in '88, I was at that first game against Manly, 44-10. Excellent. What a memory, hey. And but at the same time, I do recall conversations between my uncles and father who are all rugby league, tragics, and there was that kind of conflict within them too. Wally Lewis is, our hero, Gene Miles, Greg Dowling, all these great players, Alfie. But, we've seen what has happened with the Broncos being included to the Brisbane Rugby League. So, I hear you, mate. So, did you have any particular rugby league heroes growing up? Like any particular players capture your imagination or ones that you connected with as a young fella?
I suppose the big two, Mel Meninga and Wally Lewis.
Also
Mel in my case, because I grew up mostly as a South supporter.
All right, Magpies man, excellent. Okay, well that was actually my next question, so sensational. Well, we were chatting a little bit off camera earlier, and I mentioned to you that I was a keen visitor of Davies Park and still am to this day. I always try and get along to at least the Ipswich Jets games and the Wynnum games, and as many others as I can. But one of my favourite books of yours is your Glory to the Magpies, A History of Southern Suburbs Rugby League Club. So, as a kid, were you able to get along to Davies Park? Do you have any memories of the area at all as a young fella, or was that more when you were older you got a chance to visit?
It was more older. I never went to see any games at Davies Park back in the 80s, which was a bit tragic. I would have loved to have done that. So looking back at a lot of these old games that I've collected, it's my way of sort of recapturing what I missed out on.
Right, I hear you. Excellent. yeah, well, sometimes we get a chance when we get older to live out some of our dreams and goals that we would want to have done, wanted to have done, in our earlier time. But look, another one of your books, The Glory Days of the Brisbane Rugby League, 1977 and 1987, actually contains an in-depth analysis of every round played from 77 to 87.
Yes.
That's what really blew me away, Roger. Because being a kid who would collect, rugby league weeks and get all the programs, and that's what I'd save my pocket money up for, mowing the lawn, thinking, I'd save a couple of bucks for rugby league week. It was sensational to see that you had, because back in the day they used to have the BRL,
that's right,
didn't they, as well as the Sydney? Yeah. So was it player ratings, wasn't it? They used to get player ratings.
Right, I remember that.
Yeah, and you've included an in-depth analysis of every single game from 77 to 87, which is truly a great keepsake for any Brisbane Rugby League fan. Why did you title the period 1977 to 87 the glory days of Brisbane Rugby League in particular?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, it was just the first thing that comes to my head. It was a time of glory for this competition, that stage before the Broncos had one.
Yeah. Well, because I think it's the most appropriate title, and I guess, so you mentioned, you didn't quite get the opportunity to go to many games, but did you watch many BRL games on TV during those glory days of 77, 87?
I was great tuning to watch Billy Jane and Farmer doing the BRL games,
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Now, you actually have your own site on the net called Roger's website.
Yep.
And I'll provide a link in this video description where you can go on and support Roger with his endeavours in a variety of different aspects of his interests. And a fascinating aspect of your website is your blog titled My Suggestions to Improve Rugby League.
Yep.
So we're going to delve into some of your suggestions because I found them fascinating, very interesting and very enlightening also. They were very thought-provoking. And I was having a yarn to actually one of my uncles who's a rugby league, tragic so to speak, and and he was very much in line with a lot of your suggestions. So the first one we might delve into is, so at international level, you suggested a 4-year cycle. So you provided two different models. The first model was, so in year 1 there would be a 4 nations tournament. So are you thinking like the big 3, so Australia, New Zealand, and would it be England or Great Britain, under the Great Britain banner, or wouldn't particularly matter?
Well, I was thinking at that time Great Britain.
Great Britain.
The 4th nation. So the best of the second tier.
Best of the second tier. Okay, cool. All right, which I guess at the moment would probably unanimously be Tonga, wouldn't it? Yeah. And then, so following 4 nations tournament at the end of year 1, then you'd follow that up with, and this was my favourite, a kangaroo tour to Great Britain and France, and then you've got / Lions tour to Australia and New Zealand. So are you thinking that would cycle itself, which kangaroo tour every 8th year? Or?
Yeah, I was thinking a kangaroo tour to Great Britain every 8th year.
Right.
But there's, as you may be aware, there's been some updates on even this since I put that together.
Yes.
That the kangaroo tour has been officially brought back, and it's going to be once every 4 years. So we're going. The Lions actually toured down here and played New Zealand recently. And we're going over to we've got a Great Britain tour coming up next year. So that'll be fantastic at the end of next year, and it's going to be every 4 years rather than 8 years as I proposed.
Sure.
And even the 4 nations seems to have been superseded with this Oceania Cup. Which just started this year. Right.
Okay. Yeah, that is interesting development. Yeah. Now, I've been keeping an eye on the kangaroo tour, as you say, but the fact that it's been officially approved, as you said, is, well, there's a scoop to anyone who's not quite hip to all the latest rugby league news in the off season. There you go, Roger's giving you one. So that's brilliant, because I'm sure many people would rejoice in a return to the kangaroo tours. What kind of format would your tour take on in your proposed tour in regards to, I'm thinking, I remember staying up late in the 86 and 1990 tours in particular, and there would be a series of club games, wouldn't there?
Right.
Yeah, in between, leading up to the first test, and then a couple in between the second and third test. Would you like to see them play club matches as well as the test matches?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
As you may know, like back in 1990, 94, there was plenty of those. With the latter tours, you had the Super League tour in 97 and then the 2001 tour, which really got cut short predominantly because of 9/11 at the stage.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
then there was the 2003. So the extra games they played in those tours was a lot more limited. So they might have played half a dozen games in total, including the tests.
That's right.
So it might have been Wales or Ireland and the other games. But I'd like to see definitely like to see a few club games in there.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I couldn't agree more. Okay, so Roger, now one of your suggestions to improve the game at NRL level is to expand to 18 teams with a second team in Brisbane. Where would you suggest the second Brisbane team be located and under what kind of banner? So you're thinking Redcliffe, Ipswich, the Bombers Brothers, or any thoughts in regards to that, or any preference, or not really?
I suspect that the team that will probably get the nod will be the Bombers. I think from a financial point of view, they're probably the ones that financially will be able to best cope with what it's 20 million a team or something like that to run an NRL team a year. So I think those guys will be best positioned for doing that. Redcliffe have a great facility there at Dolphin Oval. I mean, its only capacity is about 15,000, so they wouldn't be playing there. They might play perhaps one game a year, but they'd be playing out of Suncorp anyhow. So there's no great advantage to them other than as a training ground.
Right, yeah. And I think one of your, in your blog you mentioned too, you had an idea for an alternating usage of the Old Lane Park, Suncorp Stadium, for the Broncos and for that second Brisbane team, is that right? Have you got any thoughts on how to maximise that ground?
Yeah, probably Broncos have a game at Lane Park every week, and you have the second Brisbane team and the other. For sure.
You'd really utilise that facility, wouldn't it? I mean, it makes sense really now that you put it that way. You know, financially, they'd make an absolute killing, you would imagine.
And one thing I would prefer though, if there was a team other than Brisbane, that has the Brisbane name.
Yes.
Like if Redcliffe came in and got,
right.
For example, if Redcliffe got the title, I would much prefer that they use South Queensland in the title.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
That way it's a bit more inclusive of the other areas, be it Ipswich, be it Sunshine Coast, and the Logan. So they feel like it's their team as well.
That's a good point, because marketing-wise, because especially us folks who grew up in that BRL generation was very tribal.
Yes.
So I couldn't imagine too many, especially Ipswich and Redcliffe always had a good-natured rivalry, being two kind of working-class towns on either side of Brizzy. So I couldn't imagine too many Ipswich folks necessarily becoming, staunch Redcliffe supporters, and definitely vice versa. So I think you make a great point.
Yeah. So I think of relabeling to South Queensland. This is your team as well, not just Redcliffe.
Yeah, nice one. Very good marketing strategy. I would propose. Yeah. And
the same could possibly apply with the Gold Coast if they hit problems again down the track.
Yeah. It's such a, down here, isn't it? It's always expanding. It's always growing. It'd be tragic if they didn't kind of have some type of improvement with their finances, support, and also their performance on the field. I think, and rugby league's huge down here too. You know, a lot of the biggest high schools nationwide.
That's right.
They compete, such as Keeper Park and PBC, and many others too. And it'd be good if they could get going again. That's for sure. Yeah,
I mean, the fans are a bit fickle, so I would be in favour of farming more games to other areas.
Yeah.
Be it Brisbane, be it Toowoomba, be it even Central Queensland.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, the fans have historically been a little bit of an issue for a lot of Gold Coast professional sporting teams as well.
And so if they have fewer games, I think they'll value those games a little bit more and come on.
That's a good point. Yes. Yeah. All right. Well, I just interviewed Nathan Friend recently, former Titans captain, and there's just, we were talking about how for the first 5 years of the Titans, like from 2007 to like the end of 2011 type era, it was just like there was hysteria down here. Being someone who was working and living down here at the time, I would love to. Initially, they were at Carrara in 2007, and they'd pack Carrara out. You'd need the binoculars to see the field, and and they made preliminary final in 2010. So I hear you, mate. And
they recruited very well, and
yes.
They haven't recruited anywhere near as well since then. So they haven't been up as a finals team since.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. All right, so Roger, you also suggest in regards to expansion a team in Perth. So we've been there before with the Western Reds, but sadly it didn't quite work out from 95 to 97. What do you see as the benefits of a team in Perth for the NRL and rugby league in general?
Well, the rugby union made a spectacularly terrible decision by cutting the Western force out of there. So I think there's a huge void there to be filled.
Yeah, I hear you, mate.
And there are a lot of East Coast expatriates over there in Perth.
True.
So I think they deserve to have NRL games at the very least, if not a team.
Mate, I totally agree. I've got a few friends who play in the A grade Perth league comp, and it's a good comp. You know, I see videos often on their social media pages, and you know, had a sticky beak at the grand final over there, and it's quick, the pace, you know, and as you say, most of them are expats from over in Queensland, New South Wales. I also look at it. I've had 2 stints where I've lived in the United States. Actually, I finished high school in the US in '97. I did like a student exchange, and I taught over there in North Carolina in 2013. And I took a lot of notice of their national sporting leagues, the big ones such as the NBA basketball, the NFL, gridiron, and the Major League Baseball, as well as the hockey. And they've got, they've all got, well, in the basketball and the gridiron, they've got the word national in. It's just like we've got National Rugby League. And even though basketball is, for example, let's take basketball, is more of a stronghold on the East Coast than in the big urban, you know, cities, metropolises like New York, Philadelphia, Boston, Washington, as opposed to, you know, places like, say, Phoenix out in Arizona or in areas like Oregon or up in Washington State, they still have teams there. They've still planted franchises. They've still taken the time to nurture and grow support for that game, even though it's not necessarily, you know, one of the top sports played there traditionally. So I think sometimes, you know, a small minority of rugby league folks kind of don't quite look outwardly enough.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter that Perth, you know, wasn't playing rugby league in 1908 or 1909.
Yeah.
We can still have a presence there because we're in a globally expanding world anyway. As you say, expats. So.
Yeah, well, Phil Gould made the point that with regards to expansion, that the AFL are far more far-sighted than the NRL is when it comes to expansion. Development.
You can see that, I agree with Phil on that point, for sure. You can see that.
It's paid dividends with the way the GWS have done well in the AFL. Yeah. The Suns are still struggling, of course, but it's just the whole Gold thing, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we're all waiting for one team to actually succeed here, aren't we? For our basketball and the AFLs haven't really gone to crash up.
Baseball in there as well.
What's that, sorry?
Yeah, baseball.
That's yes. Yeah, oh man, you name it, yeah. Alright, so you've also mentioned in regards to improving the game that you would like to see a 2-conference idea. I think you mentioned that the journalist Phil Rothfield, you referenced him with this idea. So specifically, Sydney Conference and a national conference.
Yeah.
So how would this conference idea work in your opinion? Like how would those different conferences be made up? What would be the makeup of those conferences?
Well, the idea is basically a Sydney conference and a national conference. So all Sydney teams in one conference, and I think that might include Newcastle. I said actually Newcastle, I think part of the national one to keep it an even number of 9 teams, and that particular idea of expanding to 18, though it probably won't go to 18. I think it'll be 16 eventually. Yeah. And so you would have rivalries in both. Yeah. So I mean the Sydney fans really only turn up for when they're playing there at the Sydney games predominantly. That's
a good point. Big crowds for local derbies.
And same for the national ones. We don't give a thing about Sydney.
Brisbane Cowboys going to sell out.
Apart from the Sydney expats who come out to see their players.
Yes.
So you have 2 lots. So you play your own conference twice. Yeah. You play the other conference once. And then you have the top 4 from each go into the
top 8.
Top 8.
So
there's your top 8.
Mate, I think you've definitely got something there. I remember quite as far back as the early 2000s, Wayne Bennett was kind of tossing around different ideas of conferences, but never really kind of came out right with a specific, okay, this is how it would be. But the way that you've just presented that, it makes sense because, as you say, in Sydney, and Sydney is very much like, in terms of rugby league support, the tribalism that Brisbane had in the BRL glory days, as you said, 77 to 87. You know, we'd get up for big, derby matches. And so that's right. Their biggest crowds, like you look at Leichhardt Oval when the Tigers are playing the Bulldogs, or Parramatta and Penrith out west, Cronulla and St George on the south side. 100%, mate. I think you've really got something there.
I think the thing with the Sydney competition, and what it's become, is that it's, rather than come 88, rather than develop a whole new competition with part Sydney teams, part national teams, they just simply expanded an existing Sydney competition, and this has always created a problem where it's essentially a Sydney competition.
Right.
Even I still look at it primarily as mostly a Sydney competition.
I
don't give a fig about the Sydney games, but having, I think, the two conference idea will help restore the balance.
Yes.
And, where you can have essentially two competitions running side by side with a bit of overlap there with, and then you come together for essentially what's like a Super Bowl at the end there.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the NBA have had an Eastern Conference and a Western Conference for years. American football, I know I keep referencing that, but you know, there's a reason why they're so profitable, because of the marketing and the setup that they've had, and the expansion.
What I think will happen, though, I don't think it will ever get to 18. I think that's the Channel 9 has signalled its intent. Their two wishes for the broadcast league. We've got a Brisbane team, and we would prefer 16. Okay, there's no way that the NRL is going to be able to deliver both of those promises. So what I think they will do, I think the first promise of a first request of a Brisbane competition is the stronger of the two, so they'll probably jump to 17. And they'll hope to go up because they don't have the guts. Let's just put it on the table. They don't have the guts to cut a Sydney team. They tried it before. Sydney came back. South Sydney came back.
Right.
So they will keep it at 17 and try and get it back to 16 by essentially not doing anything if a team falters over the line. We've seen that happen with the Gold Coast and Newcastle, and the NRL come to their aid.
Right.
And they've signalled their intent. We're not doing that next time. So that's how I think it'll get back to 16. But some team will falter. God forbid it's a Gold Coast again. I'd rather it be a Sydney team. But I think that's how it'll get out.
No, that's definitely what it looks like, doesn't it? As you say, that's what Channel 9.
And how they fit Perth into that scheme, I don't know. I would love to see perhaps a Western Sydney team play half their games in Sydney and half of them in Perth, and maybe if it's, for example, it's Parramatta or Canterbury, or change the name to, for example, the Bulldogs, Western Bulldogs. Of course, there's an AFL team. Or Western Eels or something like that. It's a bit of both. Right.
Okay. It'll be fascinating to see what they do with. Because didn't they make a whole new set of regulations though for teams to actually to survive? And there was a bit of a focus on those Sydney teams, wasn't there?
Yeah, I think there's an interview on Fox where they talk about that, and it's something that if they go into asylum, they've got the right to relocate them.
Yes.
Depends on how you determine whether they're insolvent or because they all run at a loss anyhow.
That's right.
So it's just how you define it.
It's just the Broncos, isn't it, that run a profit?
Pretty much.
Well, interesting times ahead.
Indeed.
Now, you've made several suggestions to promote the game in the United States. Now, as I was saying before, I've spent a couple of times living over there actually, and I also believe it to be a game tailor-made for American sports fans' taste buds.
Yes.
What do you believe is the best way to develop the game in the US? How?
Well, I'm glad it's starting to get back on the table again. Because we've made half-hearted attempts and not followed them up in the past.
Like the 87 Origin. And then there was just nothing, wasn't it?
And there's been the odd NRL game that's played over there, the big rowdy, rusty. Crow took over the South Sydney game over there.
And then the New Zealand English test
Yes,
a couple
that
of
was
years ago
in Denver.
Yeah.
But I believe that well, obviously it's not happening next year, but perhaps the year after they're going to look at perhaps taking the full first round of the NRL over there, which
wow.
I heard something along those lines.
Wouldn't that be interesting?
That would be interesting. My personal
what do you think?
My personal preference would be to take. I suppose we don't have Four Nations anymore, but I'd like to see some of the test matches taken over. I mean, I don't think it's a good idea taking State of Origin over there, but it gets farmed out enough to the other states as it is. But test matches are another story.
Exactly, they're international.
Exactly, and that means Australia, England, Australia, Great Britain, and you can have that as a double header and have America play France or some other Tonga or something like that as the game before it.
Yeah.
And another suggestion I had there was about the World Club Championship.
Yes, I was going to get to that. I was fascinated by that. Go for it, mate. You got the floor.
Well, I went with the World Club Challenge. I'd like to see that as like kind of a bit like they're doing with the Oceania Cup at the moment.
Yeah.
A very short competition. So you play it over 2 weekends.
Yes.
You have your top 4 British teams. America.
Super League.
Super League teams and your top 4 NRL teams. Two from each swap over.
Yep, gotcha.
So only 2 of them travel, and then you have 4 games over each on 2 weekends in the pre-season leading into the comp. Because I mean, this is the best time for these sort of games against the English. Because if they are blowouts, then people don't give a fig because they're essentially trials.
Exactly.
So I think that's the best time for it, and you have it essentially it becomes a competition with those top 8 teams from each side.
Right.
So you've got some of the games played over in England, some of them in Australia, 4 each weekend, and then whoever, I mean, even if you've got 2 or 3 teams finishing with winning both their games, then it's based on for and against who wins the, I would say, is the World Club.
That's the World Club final between the team.
No, this would be a separate World Club Shield or something else like that. Yeah. So you'd have that as the for that short 2-team competition. Then the very last game of that 2-week series would be your World Club Challenge.
Okay, got you.
From the top teams. So they'll know it. So they'll know ahead of time. Which is the how much they have to win by. They need to win the other at the same time.
Got you.
But something like that as well could be great for taking to America.
Yes, that's right.
It would be a great way of taking it to America. And you can literally, I mean, think of this idea. You can literally, because of the different time zones in the States, you can literally have one game after another. And you do that on a Saturday.
TV.
You do that on a Saturday night in America. That's all day Sunday. I mean, who would watch a whole day footy on Sunday in Australia?
That's right, Super Saturday. Super Saturday they have. Yeah, you could, absolutely. No, that's a good point with the time zones, You could line it all up. No, that's brilliant, mate. Now, I've heard you're working on a very exciting book about the Bulimba Cup.
Yes.
The legendary 3-way tournament between regional powerhouses Ipswich, Brisbane and Toowoomba. Now, as I mentioned before, my father Neil Bloxage played for Ipswich in the 70s, and so I'm very excited to see this book come out. When can we expect to possibly see that book, and have you got any other projects on the horizon as well that you'd like to share with us?
I'm hoping perhaps by the end of next month I'll have it's actually called South East Queensland Rugby League, so Bulimba Cup is part of it.
Yes, gotcha.
So I'll have the match reports of every Bulimba Cup game in that.
Wow.
And also the AMCO Cup, so I've got every single match report of the AMCO Cup that Queensland teams play.
Yes.
The AMCO Cup to the Panasonic Cup.
Right.
Under about 4 different names.
That's right. Now what teams from Queensland, so there would have been obviously the combined Brisbane that won it in 84 and was in the final in 79. There was a Queensland country team as well, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was a Queensland country team that played from 79 to 84.
Yeah.
And after that was just combined Brisbane.
Right.
Now before then, originally it started off in 75 with the top 4 from the previous year of Brisbane clubs. And then you had...
the club teams played?
Then they eventually expanded to all of them. And plus you also had some of the country teams like Ipswich and Gold Coast played. And
in the AMCO Cup?
In the AMCO Cup, yeah. So that was from 75 to 78.
Yeah.
There were some blowouts.
Yeah.
There were some blowouts.
Yeah.
But one thing I was surprised with regards to the Bloomer Cup, I mean, there weren't that many blowouts in terms of the games. I mean, the very last game, the 72 final, which kind of it was 55-2 to Brisbane thrashing Toowoomba, and it was a blowout. But you look at the rest of the results, and there wasn't that many. It was very competitive all the way through.
Right. Yeah. No, that was sensational. I've seen some photos, of matches at either Athletic Oval up in Toowoomba.
Yep.
Played up there as a young fella. It was a great atmosphere and the history behind it. And then the North Ipswich Reserve. And did Brisbane play at Elaine Park? Was that their home ground in the Bloomer Cup, or was it more?
They played.
Okay. They did. Huh. That'll be really fascinating to check that out.
So in addition to that, I'll be having including reports of touring games between Brisbane and Ipswich and Toowoomba against all the various touring games. And
like international teams, like Great Britain. Wow.
All those.
Yeah.
And various other games.
Yeah.
So that looking forward to putting that together.
Yeah, no, that'll be sensational.
Hopefully February, March time.
Yeah.
That'll be done.
Yeah. Did you find in those? Well, you might have already realised Toowoomba actually had a really good record against Great Britain touring teams.
Yeah, I think they did. Yeah.
They won. So I believe they won in 1979, just as recent as that.
Yeah.
You know, against top one like that. That's just amazing to think now, isn't it? But it's testament to how much the sport of rugby league was ingrained in the culture of different Queensland regional areas, isn't it? That a regional area like Toowoomba could beat a multinational team like Great Britain that only 9 years before had won the Ashes against Australia.
Well, they were definitely on the way by 79. Hit that nadir around 80, and that 79-82 was a very low point for Great Britain.
Yes, that's right, because the Invincibles came by in 82.
So by 84 and 86 they started to pick up.
Yeah, I've heard various theories about that. The thing that keeps on coming back is apparently they just became really, relaxed about the coaching and developing different programs to actually even train and condition players.
Yep.
And I remember a lot of the Invincibles were saying on the 82 Kangaroo tour that it really was the thing that really stood out was just the difference in conditioning.
Yeah.
So I guess they caught on to
the primary thing.
Yeah.
Another thing that probably perhaps factored in to a lesser degree was just the amount of games that they play even today. And we complain about the workload in the NRL, but there's even more in the Super League.
Yeah, that's right.
And they've still got the Challenger Cup.
Right. Yeah, good point. Exactly. Yeah. No, that's it.
And that's because you got soccer that just completely dominates. They're a lot more reliant. They don't get as much from the broadcast rights as we do down here, so they're more reliant on game taking. So that's why they have to play more games.
Yeah, absolutely. Another amazing little piece of history that you've been able to preserve, Roger, and that is an incredible library of matches that you've uploaded basically every state league final.
But one.
But that's right. We're still looking for the famous 1987.
That's
right. The famous 87
State League. Yep.
State League final between Wynnum and Redcliffe, where Wynnum won their 4th consecutive. And when it comes to BRL actual grand finals, I've never seen a library such as yours, and you guys can find it. And the link to Roger's YouTube channel is in the video description, so make sure you get on and support Roger. Subscribe, like, comment, and spread the love, guys, for the greatest game of all. But how did you get onto acquiring those videos?
Well, it all began soon after I came back from the UK in 2010.
Yeah.
And for some reason I just had a hankering to get a hold of the 2003 Ashes series. And so acquired through one of my mates who knew someone, and then I started looking online. I found this forum that was no longer around, but there were guys on there trading games.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I managed to eventually get this 2003 series I was after, because these are all come from behind.
Yeah,
we
great
played our
games.
last Ashes series back in 2003. And then I started seeing popping up some BRL Grand Final.
Yeah.
maybe I could get the 81 and 85 from South, so in 2008. So I eventually got those. And
now, were these on DVD or VHS?
DVD.
Okay,
Yeah,
right.
so most of these guys converted their stuff.
Got them back, yeah.
So, and then just with all these contacts, just traded games, built up some ridiculous collection. And then in the process, there was, I also got to know Paul Hayes from the historical committee.
Yeah.
So he was a great source for quite a few things, including games.
Yeah.
And so it was, at some stage, I got to the point where I probably had about 60 or 70% of the games from about the late 70s to current. And
glory days.
Yeah. So we were starting to get a lot of these bigger in Queensland Cup Grand Finals, but it was about 60 or 70% complete.
Right.
And so I worked with Paul, and he put out the fields with his contacts, and I did the same with my contacts on this forum, and gradually we managed to fill in all those gaps, with the exception for that 87 State League final.
Can't find that anymore.
Still a default. So once I had this collection of it, I mean, look, this is a fantastic collection here, and we need to preserve this record and also showcase it for the general public.
Definitely.
And so the idea was born in my head of actually editing all these games and getting 10-minute highlights and putting them up on YouTube.
No, I loved it. And you guys would know if you've seen my Brisbane Rugby League in the 80s documentary. Roger was a real go-to guy. This was when we still only knew each other digitally, but I was living over in London, but there's no greater source of information on Brisbane Rugby League than Roger, with his books and his video collection. So mate, it's sensational. It's brilliant. It's a real credit to you, buddy. And you're a true rugby league man, and you've got all the respect in the world from myself and anyone who loves the game. So Roger Waite, thank you so much for stopping by on More Than a Game. And we look forward to seeing many more of your sensational rugby league books released in the future. And we're definitely going to have you stop by again. And I know you've got a few future projects on the way, different books. And guys, exciting times ahead, because Roger's going to bring in his full collection of books, and we're going to really get hands-on and have a look at those books, and let you all know how you can go about, potentially purchasing, viewing, and downloading these books. So can't wait, Roger, and thank you again for your time, mate.
Thank you.
Go on, mate. Cheers.